when we look at Russian cameras, there was a bit of a trend sometimes that the Russians would bring out a camera which was a little bit advanced for its type and then go back a little bit. And that is what I think they've done a little bit with the 312 Zenit that I think came out in about 96, 97, and it took over from the 212K. The 212K is a single lens film camera that takes the Pentax K mount. This camera, which when I first bought them I thought was a model before the 212, actually this 312 came out after the 212. Hope I'm making sense here. And the thing about this camera is it is back to the M42 trusted thread. M42 is the classic Pentax thread, which all the classic Zeniths like the E and the EM are all that thread. We've got less shutter speeds on here than on the 212. If I open the body, very easy to load the film, and that looks very much like it's taken from the Zenith E. It's really interesting with this camera. It's trying so hard to be modern. We've got all this plastic. However, I think the base is actually metal, and all this is metal here inside, and the inside looks very much like it, as I said, could be from a previous camera. It's similar to the 212 in that it is a very ergonomic camera to hold. You've got slightly less shutter speeds. You have a 30th of a second, a 60th, a 125, a 1/250 and a 1/500th. The settings for the ISO are from 25 to 400. The lens is a Zenith lens, which I think is very similar to the Helios lens, and you've got it's a f2 lens, so it's a moderately fast lens, and it stops down to 22. To take a meter reading, you half press and change the aperture until it should go green. Yeah, there we are. And you click and wind on. So yeah. To set it to green, click and wind on. You've got a hot shoe here, and that is basically it. These cameras were not quite as successful as the Zenith E, because by the time these cameras were on the market, the price of the Japanese cameras were incredibly competitive, and these didn't quite have the competitive edge in performance or with quality, but they were slightly cheaper. Very much, as I said, with the 212 and 312 are incredibly similar apart from the mount, and both mounts are useful. When I was using originally the screw thread, I used to think that was a real fiddle to take it on and off, but it's not really. And the thing about the Pentax screw thread is you can get extension tubes very cheaply. So if you want to use macro photography and close-up photography and do things like plants, flowers and interesting objects, this camera with the screw thread is definitely a cheaper way of doing it. The K is like, although you can get them a cheap import now, the screw thread were always a lot easier to get extension tubes, and you can probably get some extension tubes very cheaply. So there's not a lot more to say. This is a 312 Russian camera, which is interesting to use, and if you find one, I hope you enjoy it. Bye for now.